Welcome back, dear listeners, to another episode of Tales Plus. Last time, we left off with King Yunan defending the sage Duban from his envious minister's accusations. But would his trust in Duban hold, or would the minister's words slowly turn his heart?
And just as we were about to find out, dawn arrived, and Shahrazad stopped her tale. Once again, she managed to save her life for another night. The next morning, just like the days before, King Shahryar ruled over his court, issuing orders, making judgments, and handling the affairs of his kingdom. And when night fell once more, he eagerly returned to hear the continuation of the tale.
And so, on the fifth night, as always, Dunyazad turned to her sister and asked for the rest of the story. Shahrazad smiled and resumed.
It has reached me, O auspicious king, that King Yunan turned to his minister and said,
Wazir, envy has taken hold of you. You wish to see this physician put to death, but if I were to follow your advice, I would regret it, just as King Sindibad regretted killing his falcon.
The wazir, sensing an opportunity, bowed and asked,
O king, pardon me, but what was the story of King Sindibad and his falcon?
And so King Yunan began to tell the tale.
Long ago, there was a king of Fars who absolutely loved hunting. It was his favorite pastime, and whenever he went out for a chase, he never went alone. He had a falcon, his most prized companion, one that he kept on his wrist day and night. This wasn't just any bird. He treasured it so much that he even had a golden cup tied around its neck, just so it could drink whenever it needed. One day, as the king relaxed in his palace, his chief falconer approached him, eyes bright with excitement.
My king, the weather is perfect for hunting today.
Then, let's not waste any time. Prepare the horses and the hunting gear.
And with that, the king, his falcon perched on his wrist, rode out with his hunting party. They traveled across the open land, enjoying the fresh air, until they reached a wide valley. There, they set up a ring of nets, ready to trap whatever prey wandered in. Then, suddenly, a gazelle darted into the trap. The king, filled with excitement, raised his voice and made a bold declaration to his men.
Listen well. If anyone lets that gazelle escape, if she leaps over your head and gets away, you'll pay for it with your life.
The hunters closed in, tightening the nets around the gazelle as she neared the king's position. But instead of panicking, the gazelle did something extraordinary. She gracefully sat back on her hind legs, crossed her forelegs over her chest, and lowered her head, almost as if she were bowing before the king. The king, impressed by this strange display, lowered his head in return, acknowledging the creature's gesture. And just as he did, the gazelle suddenly sprang into the air, leaping high over the king's head, and darted away into the open wilderness. The king's soldiers, stunned by what they had just seen, exchanged glances, some even smirking and whispering amongst themselves. Noticing this, the king turned to his wazir and asked,
Wazir, what are my men whispering about?
My king, they are merely reminding each other of your command, that whoever lets the gazelle leap over his head must be put to death.
Then, by my own words, I swear, I will not rest until I catch her myself.
The king spurred his horse forward, chasing after the gazelle with relentless determination. He tracked it across the land, never slowing, until the chase led him to the foothills of a vast mountain range. Just when it seemed the gazelle might escape, it darted toward a cave for refuge. But the king was prepared. He released his falcon, and in an instant the bird soared high, then swooped down with deadly precision. Its sharp talons struck the gazelle's eyes, blinding and bewildering it. The king rode up, drew his mace, and with a swift strike, ended the hunt. The gazelle fell lifeless to the ground. Dismounting, the king quickly cut the gazelle's throat, skinned it, and secured its body to the pommel of his saddle. But the day was scorching, the land dry and unforgiving. The hunt had exhausted him, and his horse as well. Both were desperately in need of water. As he searched for relief, he noticed a strange tree. From its branches dripped a liquid, thick like melted butter. Believing it to be water, the king removed the golden cup that hung from his falcon's neck. He filled it with the dripping liquid and placed it before the bird, offering it the first drink. But to his surprise, the falcon suddenly lashed out, striking the cup with its talons and spilling the liquid onto the ground.
Maybe my falcon is just thirsty and impatient.
Thinking nothing of it, the king refilled the cup and offered it again. But once more, the falcon knocked it over with its sharp claws.
What's wrong with you, bird? Are you playing some kind of game?
Determined to quench his thirst, the king filled the cup a third time, this time for his horse. But just as he raised it, the falcon struck again, spilling the liquid before a single drop could be tasted.
Curse you, you foolish bird. You keep me from drinking, and you deprive yourself as well. Even the horse is suffering, and yet you insist on ruining our water.
Enraged by the falcon's actions, the king lost his temper. Without thinking, he drew his sword and struck the bird, slicing off one of its wings. The falcon, now injured, lifted its head weakly and looked at the king as if trying to tell him something. With its remaining strength, it gestured toward the tree. The king, still fuming, followed the bird's gaze and finally noticed what had been hidden among the branches. Above him, coiled around the limbs, was a brood of deadly vipers. The drops he had mistaken for water were, in fact, their venom, dripping dangerously from the tree.
What? What have I done?
A wave of guilt washed over him as he realized the truth. His loyal falcon had been trying to save him all along. Sick with remorse, he quickly mounted his horse and rode back to camp, carrying the lifeless gazelle. When he arrived, he threw the game to the cook and ordered it to be prepared. But as the king sat down, the falcon still resting weakly on his wrist, the bird let out a final gasp. And then it died.
Oh, what a fool I have been. I killed the very creature that saved my life.
And so, the king mourned his falcon, realizing too late the price of his anger and impatience. And now, Wazir, do you understand? If I were to do as you suggest, I would surely regret it, just as the man who killed his parrot did.
And how did that happen, my king?
And so the king began another tale.
It is said that there once was a merchant, a man of wealth and standing, who had married a woman of extraordinary beauty. She was graceful, charming, and so breathtakingly lovely that he became madly jealous, refusing to leave her side. But, as fate would have it, business eventually forced him to travel. Desperate to keep an eye on his wife while he was away, he went to the bird market and bought a parrot, a rare and intelligent bird, for 100 gold coins. This was no ordinary parrot. She was sharp, observant, and never forgot anything she saw or heard. The merchant placed her in his home, instructing her to watch over everything in his absence and report back when he returned. But what the merchant didn't know was that his beautiful wife had already fallen for another, a young Turk who visited her in secret. While her husband was away, she welcomed her lover into the house, feasting with him by day and lying with him by night, certain that her secret was safe. After completing his journey, the merchant returned home, eager to know what had transpired in his absence. Wasting no time, he called for his parrot and questioned her about his wife's conduct.
"O master, your wife was unfaithful. A man visited her every night while you were away."
The merchant's face turned red with fury. Without a second thought, he stormed into his wife's chambers and beat her severely, fueled by rage and betrayal. The wife, stunned by his anger, suspected that one of her maids had exposed her secret. She gathered them all together and demanded the truth, making them swear on their lives. Each of them swore they had told nothing. But then one of them added,
"It was not us, my lady. It was the parrot. We heard her with our own ears."
Hearing this, the wife devised a cunning plan. She ordered one maid to place a hand mill beneath the parrot's cage and grind grain throughout the night. Another was told to sprinkle water through the cage roof, and a third was given a bright steel mirror to flashlight around the room, darting back and forth until dawn. The next morning, the merchant returned home after spending the night at a friend's house. Eager to confirm the truth, he immediately called for the parrot, the only one who could reveal what had happened while he was away.
Tell me, what took place last night?
"Forgive me, O master, but I could neither see nor hear anything. The night was filled with thick darkness, thunder, and lightning, It was impossible to witness anything clearly.
The merchant's brows furrowed in confusion. He looked outside. The sky was clear, the summer sun blazing down.
What are you saying? We're in the middle of summer. This is the dry season. There was no storm last night.
I saw it with my own eyes, and I only tell you what I know to be true.
The merchant, unaware of the trick that had been played on the parrot, grew furious. He now believed that his loyal bird had wrongly accused his wife, and in his anger he made a terrible decision. In a fit of rage, he reached into the cage, grabbed the parrot, and without a second thought, hurled it to the ground with such force that the poor bird died instantly. And so, in his blindness, the merchant destroyed the only creature that had told him the truth. Some days later, the truth could no longer stay hidden. One of the merchant's slave girls, unable to keep the secret any longer, confessed everything to him. But still, he refused to believe it, until one fateful day, when he saw it with his own eyes. He watched, stunned, as the young Turk, his wife's lover, crept out of her chamber, confirming all that had been said. At that moment, fury overtook him. Without hesitation, he drew his blade. With a swift strike to the back of the neck, he ended the Turk's life. And with the same blade, he turned to his wife and did the same, sending them both, as he believed, to the punishment they deserved. But the moment his rage faded, sorrow took its place. He now realized that his parrot had spoken nothing but the truth. But what good was the truth now? The only one who had been loyal to him was gone? He mourned the parrot bitterly, but no amount of grief could bring it back.
After hearing this story, King Yunan finished speaking, hoping his words would warn his minister against acting out of jealousy. But the wazir, refusing to back down, simply booed and replied,
"O mighty king, what harm have I done this man? Or what evil have I seen from him that I would seek his death? I would never suggest such a thing unless it were to protect you. Soon, you will say that my advice is correct. If you follow it, you shall be saved. But if you ignore it, you shall be destroyed, just as a certain wazir was when he betrayed a young prince."
And what is the story of this wazir who acted treacherously against the prince?
And so the wazir began another tale. And so, just as King Yunan thought he had silenced his wazir's suspicions, the minister leaned in and began another tale, one that would twist the fate of the wise sage Duban even further.
"Well, that sounds like a dangerous shift in the story. The king stood strong against his minister once, but will he hold his ground, or will this new tale change everything?"
It's a question of trust, isn't it? Who do you believe? The one who saved your life or the one whispering fear into your ear? Stories like this remind us that even the strongest leaders can be swayed by doubt.
And that's what makes this so gripping. Right now, we see two powerful forces, wisdom and envy, fighting for control over the king's mind. The real question is, which one will win?
To find out, you'll have to join us next time. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe and follow Tales Plus so you never miss a moment of the adventure. And if someone ever tries to manipulate you, just send them this episode as a little warning.
Until next time, stay curious, trust wisely, and we'll see you in the next episode.